With us today is Mr. Marnie Pineda, who's the brother of Isol Pineda, Adam Pineda, brother of Isol Pineda, Jeffrey Mayer, Isol Pineda's former husband and very, very close family friend, Mr. Michael Fruling, who's the family attorney, Mark Kavelovich, who is the family friend of many years, Mike Vecchione, chief of the Rackets Division, Eileen Evazian, executive assistant in the Rackets Division, Monique Farrell, who's chief counsel to the Rackets Division, the chief investigator, Joe Ponzi, assistant chief, George Terra, supervising Rackets investigator, Mike Seminara, supervising investigator, Sean Winter, and detective investigator, Patrick Lanahan. On May 10th, 2012, Isol Pineda, who was 51 years of age, had an abdominal liposuction procedure performed by Dr. Oleg Davie, or Dr. Davie, in his Manhattan Beach, Brooklyn office. Ms. Pineda had responded to an internet ad by Dr. Davie offering liposuction services at a discount. Ms. Pineda's first visit with Dr. Davie was at his office in Manhattan, where she filled out a medical history report given to her by the doctor's assistant. She revealed that she had had a heart transplant 8 years before and was taking a regimen of multiple anti-rejection drugs prescribed by our cardiologist. And as you can see from the photo, there is clear scarring visible on her chest, which is left from the surgery. Despite this, Dr. Davie agreed to perform the procedure at his Brooklyn office without ever contacting Ms. Pineda's cardiologist or her transplant surgeon. And had Dr. Davie made an inquiry to the cardiologist or the transplant surgeon, he certainly would have been told that under the circumstances, the procedure was highly ill-advised. The New York City medical examiner found that Ms. Pineda's death was a homicide, and but for the procedure, she would have lived. Shortly after the procedure was performed, Ms. Pineda collapsed in Dr. Davie's office. Her heart stopped and she died. Dr. Davie had no medical backup, no training in emergency resuscitation, and no way of reviving Ms. Pineda. And as you can see from the photographs of Ms. Pineda, Dr. Davie performed this fatal cosmetic procedure on a woman described by her cardiologist as a tall, slender, beautiful person with no discernible body fat. Soon after Ms. Pineda died, our investigation revealed that Dr. Davie engaged in a cover-up. During the investigation of Ms. Pineda's death by the New York State Department of Health, Dr. Davie surrendered his license to practice medicine on December 7, 2012. In 2011, the Department of Health had restricted Dr. Davie's practice for a 3-year period to cosmetic medicine. This restriction resulted from a finding that he had mischaracterized cosmetic procedures as medically necessary. In addition, the department determined that he had failed to appropriately treat and follow up with 7 other patients. During the investigation of Ms. Pineda's death, the Department of Health discovered that Dr. Davie submitted an altered, sanitized version of Ms. Pineda's medical history from that form that she submitted before the surgery, and that's all available for you to review. All references to her heart transplant and her anti-rejection medication were eradicated from this altered version of the patient's record submitted by Dr. Davie. Following a referral from the New York State Department of Health, evidence was presented to a Kings County grand jury, and on Tuesday, March 19th, the grand jury returned an indictment, which was filed on Tuesday, March 26th. Dr. Davie has been indicted for the crimes of manslaughter in the 2nd degree, negligent homicide, reckless endangerment in the 1st degree, and offering a false instrument in the 1st degree for filing. If convicted, Dr. Davie faces a maximum sentence of between 3 1/3 and 34 years. Dr. Davie was educated at the Odessa Medical Institute in the Ukraine, where he graduated in 1984. In 1997, he opened his practice in New York. As a warning to the public, you can verify the status of any physician practicing in this state by going up on the New York State Department of Health website, which is www.health.ny.gov. Have any questions? Yeah. Okay. John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
How would you characterize what he did?
Well, I don't think it's appropriate for me to characterize it. The grand jury heard the evidence and decided that he should be charged with manslaughter.
What about in terms of the use of documents?
Well, the documents, I suppose you could describe appropriately as the smoking gun. Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that he filled out these documents as part of the cover after her death?
What he did was we charged that he altered the original document that Ms. Pineda gave to his assistant in his Manhattan office. And if you take a close look at the original and then the change, you'll see the clear change.
After her death? Or
Yeah, of course. No, after her death.
And did the medical examiner make it clear exactly what the cause of death was? Was it the medicine or her heart condition?
The medical examiner said that the death was a homicide. And then when she was pressed, she said that were it not for this operation, Ms. Pineda would be alive.
With the documents being altered, what does that tell you about his conduct?
Well, there is a concept in law called consciousness of guilt. You know, where you have been charged or you're being investigated for a particular act, and then you take steps that, in this case, you alter documents. The theory is consciousness of guilt, and that is probative on the question of whether or not you should be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Yes, ma'am.
Could you talk a little bit about his medical credentials? Was he, in fact, a surgeon? Did he recertify as a doctor here?
Well, he was certainly clearly licensed to practice. He had his license altered, as I said, because of a prior conduct that the Department of Health found unprofessional and not permissible, and that was what he was characterizing cosmetic surgery as a necessary procedure when it's not. So he was limited very specifically to cosmetic medicine for 3 years. And of course, during the course of this investigation after Ms. Pineda's death, they suspended his license last December.
So was in limiting him to cosmetic medicine, was he even, I know lipo is considered cosmetic medicine.
Right.
Was he limited to just certain procedures? You're saying he was allowed to perform the lipo?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Do you think you guys would have been able to bring the case had he not forged these documents?
Well, I think the objective findings by the Department of Health that the cause of death was homicide would still have permitted us to send the evidence to the grand jury and seek a manslaughter indictment. I think that the act of altering the document as a consciousness of guilt, of course, just adds to the facts. Yeah.
Someone with this many strikes against them, the fact that they were still allowed to perform such an invasive procedure, I mean, what does that say about cosmetic surgery in general? I mean, is there enough regulation?
I don't know how to respond to that. Thank God I don't need it. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? Yeah, you can speak to them afterwards.
How did you find the original document?
I'm not going to tell you that. Okay, that's part of the investigation. And I think, I mean, to the credit of the New York State Department of Health, they did a very, very good job investigating this case and then referring it to us. Yeah, John?
Did the patient, was it her idea to get the liposuction?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and your position is, what is it that he should have told her?
Well, I'm not going to go into his mind, and I mean, certainly looking at the form and seeing that she had heart transplant, that she was on medication to prevent rejection, that had he spoken to the cardiologist or the transplant surgeon, clearly they would have told him that this procedure was, at minimum, ill-advised.
Do you think there are other victims of this doctor?
I'm sorry?
Do you think there are other victims of this doctor, other patients?
Well, I mean, certainly, you know, the investigation continues in that regard as well.
What's his actual last name?
Oh, sure. Well, his actual name is, let me try and pronounce it for you, okay?
What's his actual spelling?
I'm sorry?
Probably.
He was known as Dr. Davie, but Debiatov is his name from they used in the Ukraine.
And this was at Coney Island Hospital, the procedure was?
No, it was performed at his office, in Manhattan Beach, Brooklyn. Okay. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I came a little late. What exactly did he alter on the record?
When Ms. Pineda went to his Manhattan office, Dr. Davie's assistant gave her a form to fill out with her medical history. On that form, she revealed that she had had heart transplant operation 8 years before, and that she was on anti-rejection medicine. The investigation revealed that this form, after she died, this form was altered, and we alleged it was Dr. Davie who personally altered it. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Just off topic, do you mind just responding to Abe George and accusing you of having pretty much a
Now,
infomercial?
yeah, I don't know if you've been around here as long as I have, which apparently is an issue for me. I've been around too long. But I have never answered political questions from this podium. And so I'm going to give you the name of George Arts, who's the former editor of the New York Post and is the communication director for my campaign. And he will answer any and all questions with regard to these opponents, by the way, incidentally, who have never formally announced. Right? But it's 212-608-0333. Okay? All right, thank you very much. Good. Okay, good job. Very good. Great job. Great job, guys.
I'd like to just kind of field the questions, and then we'll give one of the family members an opportunity to answer, assuming that it's appropriate. The family attorney is here, so there's a civil action pending, there's a criminal action pending, so it's going to be a little bit dicey sometimes if the question is not appropriate. So,
How are the people related?
excuse me?
The people, the family
Okay.
members, how are they related?
So I'm going to introduce Jeff Mayer. He is Eisel's former husband and a very close family friend. He can tell you who the people are up here. Okay, Jeff?
Can you just spell your name?
Yes, Jeffrey Mayer, Eisel's former husband and best friends for the last 35 years. We have Anand Pineda, here, Eisel's brother.
M-A-Y-E-R.
M-A-Y-E-R.
J-E-F.
J-E-F-F-R-E-Y, M-A-Y-E-R. And up here with us.
Perhaps we could start with you, sir?
Sure.
Could you tell us about your ex-wife? What's your reaction to this?
Well, we're just very happy to see that justice is actually being served. And I think the number one thing that's going to come out of this is that, as ironic as her death is, how many lives that she's going to save. So I think there's no question that these simple procedures and the way it was advertised to be such a simple, non-invasive in and out, I mean, something to be like 3 hours type of procedure you would never realize could cost you your life. So it's something that really needs to be checked out very well
What do you think
before
about
that.
what the doctor did?
It's deplorable. It's something that you put your trust into a certified physician, and even though everything has risks, but it never would think about anything regarding death or anything even close to that.
Can you talk about Eisel, what kind of person she is?
You can come up with Moni too. Absolutely. Yeah, we both come up. I mean, while you're up here too, I could just say that after being together we met in juniors in college and went out for 9 years, married for 10 after that, and still best friends until the day she died, working together ever since. So it was my best friend, and still very much loved her and in love with her. So, and
Her
Marnie?
brother's name?
My name is Marnie Pineda,
Could you step in front of the mic, sir? Can you spell your name, please?
M-A-R-N-I.
Marty, can you just tell us when you learned of her death, your feelings and your thoughts?
When I learned of my sister's death, I was in shock. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand it. I thought it was all a bad dream. I couldn't understand. I just would have never thought this would happen. It didn't need to happen. And I'm sure my sister saw it that way as well, unexpected.
Did you know she was having lipo?
No,
She never told you she was having lipo?
no.
Mr. Pineda?
Tell us just a little bit about your sister's personality and what type of things she enjoyed doing, what she did for work, a little bit about her.
My sister has, my older sister, she was in charge of the family, more or less to say. I always looked up at her. She was a workaholic. She was a lady, a woman, in charge, enjoyed life even before the heart transplant. And once she was given a second chance, thank God, she even appreciated even more. Bubbly, smiling, help out. Friends adored her. A sister to anyone.
She wasn't secretive about her heart transplant.
No, not at all.
Is it your feeling that if the doctor said to her, don't have this, you're going to be at risk, having gone through what she
Again,
went
we're going to
through?
have him not make any comments about his personal feelings about any aspects of the actions of the doctor. I think that the DA's office is handling that appropriately at this point.
Can you tell us how you found out about her death? Where you found out?
I received a phone call. I was on my way of picking up my daughter from camp, I believe, or pre-K. And I received a phone call stating that my brother-in-law was trying to reach me. And then after that, I had called, and we got a hold. He was on his way to Coney Island Hospital. And that's when I received it. It was probably about a little before 3 in the afternoon on May 10th. And again, I was in shock. I couldn't even drive home, but I had to drive home.
Did he still have any children?
No.
You describe your sister as a workaholic. What work did she do? Did she have a job?
She was in retail and business and sales, a designer as well.
Was she aware of the implications of this kind of surgery, given her condition and her transplant surgery? Like her doctor?
Again, we're not going to comment on that, and there's going to be no comment. The DA's office is handling everything. It's part of the criminal investigation and also part of the civil investigation.
She never discussed with anybody in the family that she was going in for this procedure?
Again, we're not going to be commenting about any comments that impact on the case.
Can you talk about, she seems like a very beautiful woman. Are you surprised that she would want to have that kind of surgery, cosmetic surgery?
Mark? I think that we should refrain from what the family's feelings are in terms of what happened and in terms of what they knew or didn't know, because that can potentially impact again on the ongoing criminal case as well as the civil case that's also ongoing.
But one of the things I think that's important that's being brought up is that,
Can you step to the mic?
yeah, I think one of the things that's important is that, I mean, we want to avoid other women from being, you know, victimized by this same type of procedure, so, or procedures going forward. So, as beautiful as Isel was, I mean, stunning. She'd walk in a room and, you know, the music would stop, people would just stop talking. Somebody, but clearly did not need to have the liposuction done in any way. But I think in today's age, you watch how many, everybody's constantly trying to better themselves or trying to make themselves look more beautiful or feel better about themselves. So it's easy to see how somebody would want to do something, especially when it's advertised so easily as a simple procedure to come in, a little love handle, something you want to take off. So I think something needs to be, if not changed like that, at least make sure that every doctor needs to be checked out thoroughly. So whatever better actions there are before any procedures are done, that these doctors are investigated. And I'm surprised because Isel's usually pretty good at, you know, considering Dr. Oz had her heart transplant and she was so good at checking everything out. Somehow this one, you know, this procedure, you know, the follow-up on that didn't take place. But for anyone else out there looking to get any type of procedures done, that's something that really should be well checked out prior to anything being done.
You say that Dr. Oz did her heart, Dr. Osment Oz
Yes.
did her heart transplant?
Yes.
Obviously top of the line doctor.
Absolutely, 8 years ago. And completely no rejection. She was a fabulous candidate. No problems all the years afterwards, lived a fabulous life after her heart transplant up until the day she died. So there was nothing to do with her heart at all regarding her death?
My sister was a good friend. Just calling her, texting her, meeting in the city, getting together, holidays, everything I miss. If she's away, she traveled a lot, and sometimes I feel that she's still away. I just think she's on one of her trips and is still alive. But I miss her. I miss everything. We grew up, although 5 years, we all 5 years. My brother and him is 5 years younger. I'm in the middle. My sister's 5 years older, and you know, we lost our older sister. You know, and as we got older, we were closer, a lot closer.
So it's two brothers?
Sure.
It's myself and my younger brother.
So she was the oldest?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's it.